Hello everyone! Today we're making steak tartare, the famous raw meat dish with much disputed history. However, no matter what the real story is, it's really not too complicated to make yourself at home. I'll go over all the necessary steps and precautions required to make preparing and eating it both a safe and delicious experience. Now, let's get into it. Long-standing legends claim this dish was derived from the eating habits of fierce nomadic warriors, such as the Tartars and the Mongols, as recorded by the French chronicler, excuse my pronunciation, Jean de Joinville, in the 13th century. However, these claims are a little shaky. He never encountered either group himself, and seemed to have a bit of a negative streak for them, labeling them as uncivilized savages. What we do know is that raw meat consumption has been a staple in many different cultures all around the world for thousands of years, so it's more likely that these practices made their way into more contemporary dining through the migration of people and ideas in general. Hamburg steak, a raw or lightly cooked minced beef dish, popularized by German immigrants to the United States in the mid to late 18th century, was commonly enjoyed throughout New England, and other raw preparations of meat, such as Met, a raw minced pork dish, are common German dishes to this day. Perhaps the use of beef rather than pork was more tailored to the American palate. Who knows? The great chef and author Escoffier mentions this dish in his 1922 edition of Le Guide Culinaire as steak à l'américaine, with much of the staples we see in its modern preparations today: minced beef, egg yolk, and various flavorings. So to begin, let's look at our beef. It's best to use cuts that feature little to ideally no connective tissue or fat, as both of these things require removal or intense cooking to make them edible. Your best bet will be very lean cuts of beef, such as tenderloin, sirloin, rump, and eye round. But with proper trimming, cuts like flank, terrace major, and this here flat iron make for perfectly good options. No matter what cut you use, freshness is of the utmost importance, as is removing as much of that hard fat, sinew, and other connective tissue as possible. And most importantly, never use pre-ground meat for tartare. Pre-ground meat is comprised of many different cuts of meat, potentially multiple animals ground into uniformity, fat and connective tissue and all. This combination of different cuts, often from multiple different animals, drastically increases the risk of bacterial contamination that can only be removed by cooking it. After quality, texture is the most important component on our beef tartare. How it's cut completely changes our experience, and one thing I like doing is freezing the meat, partially. Only cutting it once it just starts to defrost. This serves a dual purpose. The freezing maintains freshness and helps to reduce the risk of bacteria or parasites, while also allowing us to cut it more precisely, since it's a bit firmer and doesn't wiggle around as much. I find the best size to be around 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, or 3 to 6 millimeters. I usually opt for around 5 millimeters because it's the easiest to visualize for me, but most importantly, we just want it very small and uniform. Taking your time and making sure everything is nice and uniform is very important. There's no cooking or chemical reactions to help tenderize the meat in the dish, so our cutting is doing all of the heavy lifting in that department. As you can see, I've cut the meat into planks, then in half again, to make nice even batons. Then I go back and cut them into perfect little cubes. Doing it in steps like this helps maintain our consistency. The best way to really accomplish anything is one step at a time. We can learn a lot from steak tartare. We'll just get our little meat cubes into a bowl with a paper towel as we work. This will help soak up any unwanted liquid that might come off the meat, and help keep our cutting board clear. Cluttered cutting boards, sharp knives, and cold, desensitized fingertips aren't a great combination, and we love safe practices here. Alright, so we're all done with our beef, so let's get this into the refrigerator while we process our other ingredients. Oh, and don't forget, because we're working with raw meat, make sure we keep our knives and our cutting board as clean as possible. So, we have our meat squared away, no pun intended, but what about our other ingredients? Here's what I like putting in my tartare. First of all, shallots. This is a big one. I feel like every tartare needs them. We'll do a very fine cut called a brunoise on these. We'll just do some cross cuts, cut against those cuts, and we end up with these. Our second allium addition, chives. Everyone loves chives. I love chives. And people really like when people cut chives. Apparently it's a cool chef thing to show off how finely you can get them. Kind of dumb if you ask me, but try to get them as fine as you can. we have a little Worcestershire sauce, some good quality mustard, this is Dijon. We have some capers. These ones I have are abnormally large, so I'm going to cut them up a bit finer into a paste. You'll want to do this with your normal size ones too. Getting a full caper and a bite of tartare is a little intense. A little hot sauce. Usually a vinegar-based sauce like Tabasco is used, but this is a lacto-fermented hot sauce with chilies from my garden, so of course I gotta use it. Now, for my first secret ingredient, anchovy. I don't often see this in tartare, probably because it's already represented in the Worcestershire sauce, but I think just a little extra of this umami bomb really works well. We want this very finely minced. For my second secret ingredient, prepared horseradish. This one is a game changer. Beef and horseradish already go really well together, and this just gives the tartare the special something something you can't really put a finger on. Trust me on this one. And last but not least, egg yolk. In case you've never separated an egg, it's really easy. Grab a bowl, gently crack your egg, split it in half, then pass the yolk back and forth between the two sides of the shell over the bowl. Egg yolk is a must in tartare to bind the whole thing together. And now we just need to put it all together. There's not really any rhyme or reason to this, you just thoroughly mix it up. I'm only making half of this right now, so I'm only using half of my ingredients. But even then, the amounts are up to you, and you can put in how much or how little as you please. In many modern presentations of this dish, they don't even mix it. They just present the ingredients separately and let the guests choose how they want to mix it themselves. But this is how I like mine, and I think it's a good representation of the dish, and it'll be a good benchmark for you to start from. Give it a taste and adjust it as needed. Now we just need to figure out how to make it look good. In restaurants, we would generally use a ring mold, but most people don't have those at home, so here's a fun trick you can do to make your tartare a little bit more visually impressive. Everyone will think you're really fancy. Take a little plastic wrap and line any small vessel you have, like this ramekin. Put your tartare in there and press it down firmly. Then flip your plate, place it on there, and use the plastic wrap to release it. And boom, look at that. Now you might have noticed I left out the egg yolk, but I did that on purpose because I have another trick. This might be sacrilegious, but I don't care, it's delicious. But I like grating some good hard cheese on there, something like Parmesan, Asiago, or this Pecorino Romano, and nestling the egg yolk in it right on top. It gives it some whimsy, and we could all use a little whimsy, and cheese. Now there's only one thing left to do, and that's liking and subscribing. It might not be as enjoyable as this steak tartare is, but it helps me continue making videos like this so you too can enjoy steak tartare at home, among other delicious things, so check out the rest of the channel. And as always, thanks for watching.